So I've been hearing some things about working with ancestors. And specifically yesterday, I heard something about working with problematic ancestors as a white person. And from all of the people that I have worked with when it comes to working with ancestors, those who are both in and outside of Santeria. My Caro tradition as well works with ancestors, our ancestors. There are several spiritual traditions that work with ancestors. And so to me, this idea of having a problematic ancestor is sort of silly and antithetical, sort of the opposite of the point of working with our ancestors. Because to me, and from what I've learned, what I know to be true, is that working with our ancestors is meant to help us learn from their mistakes, learn from their triumphs, and not repeat them. And so if you think about it, people always say things like, if you think about, your ancestor or your grandma's wishes for you and that you are their dreams come true, we are supposed to build on what they fought for, not continue to fight the same battle. And I find all too often that people don't stop to recognize that battle was already fought and won. So if you're still fighting a battle, it is either internal and within you and not external as you perceive it to be, or it's not the same battle per se, because that battle was already won. So it's a new form of whatever it is. And so we have to stop and realize that when working with our ancestors, that's not about taking on their struggles, but learning from them, using them to heal, using them to transcend, using them to be better yourself, not just to take on, not to identify with them, but use them as a learning tool, use them as something so you don't repeat the same mistakes twice. In that sense, they are there to help you, not for you to take on their struggles, but for them to help you with your own struggles. And I find that people feel like in order to work with their ancestors, they have to internally take on their ancestor struggles or internally take on their ancestors' identities. And that's very much not the case from everything I've learned from some really brilliant spiritual teachers on working with your ancestors. Oh, it's cold in here. Making my nose run. So, I just want to present this to anyone wanting to work with their ancestors and those who already are. And I want to ask you to, start looking at it, sort of differently. The way I have been taught to look at it differently. There are no problematic ancestors in that sense. There are no ancestors that, no matter who you are, no matter what they did, are problematic. If anything, they're wise and can show you where they failed and how they failed in different ways, and allow you to not take those things on and allow you to succeed in not necessarily the ways that they failed. Obviously, again, this is not about taking on negative qualities. This is about learning from any negative qualities and taking on any positive qualities, and learning from any positive anything, because it's not necessarily about taking them on. It's about having them as a support system and as a place to learn, as something to learn from. So we can all learn from any of our ancestors, any of them whatsoever, no matter how problematic someone else would consider them right now. There's nothing that isn't an open door to peace and happiness if you're willing to learn the lesson that it has to offer you and see the positivity behind what it has to offer you. So I just want to encourage everyone to start looking at things from a positive, and you can do this with anything, whether it's working with your ancestors or working with anything. Old wounds that anyone might have, any limiting beliefs you might have. You can, any resistance you have to anything. There's always going to be something positive that you can take from it, even if it's not positive in and of itself. And there's always going to be a lesson to be learned from it so that you can move forward rather than stay stuck dwelling in anything negative. That's not what they want. They want you to move forward to better, as I say, rather than going backwards to normal or staying stuck and dwelling in the past. It's not about dwelling in the negative of the past. It's about learning from their triumphs and their struggles and anything that they have to offer you. It's about learning from that and using it to make things better, not sit and dwell in the negative, because that's not helping or healing anyone. The victim mentality in general is not about healing, that's about suffering. And why would you want to promote more suffering in your life? That doesn't make sense. You want to promote healing. So letting go of the victim mentality, letting go of the enemy mentality or the victim mentality, and really recognizing that by letting those things go, you can heal anything with the salve of being willing to recognize that your perception of things is anchored in your past experiences and your past experiences alone, and that if you're just willing to clean the lenses that you're seeing through, if you're just willing to, adopt, even a slightly different thought process than you are now, taking in and taking on, seeing through, that things could be very, very, very different for you. Very different for you. Just by taking the time to recognize that you're seeing through your own perspective, which is all built off of past experiences. And it's all a story. It's all a story you tell yourself. So maybe it's time to start telling yourself a new story. All right, guys, thank you for joining me for another video. For those of you who don't already know me, I'm in Blackwood, and I bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. May the energy you serve you well.